So today I want to go over the Game 5 draft from Mad Lions Koi vs G2, which took place this past weekend. And let me tell you, this was a banger series. If you haven't gotten the chance to, go check out the highlights on YouTube. But especially the Game 5 draft had some pretty crazy twists in it, especially, well, most notably in the top lane. So jumping right on in, Mad Lions start out with Vi first pick. We've been over this a million times. Vi's not good, but it was a really high prio champ in the series. It was actually picked in all 5 games, and I'll tell you, Elioya played it a heck of a lot better than Yike did. I'm actually really down on Yike right now as a player, but that's a whole nother story. Anyways, Vi first pick, not great, but it's there. G2 immediately answer with Zyra and Draven, which is solid. Zyra's going to be outpacing and outfarming and outscaling the Vi in every single way this game. Much more value as a champion there come the late game team fight stage, and just in terms of pace and objective control, Zyra's much better. And obviously the Draven for Hansam is really, really good. And a strong power pick there. And so with the Mad Lions second rotation of Zeri Braum, you can immediately tell that the Zeri's going mid lane, because Draven actually counters Zeri pretty hard in the bot lane phase. Draven does really well into her. So unless Mad Lions is just really, really stupid, that Zeri's definitely going mid lane. Either way, the Braum is a really solid pick. I really, really like that. This champ has been underrated for a long time. And I'm really glad that he's finally getting the appropriate attention because he's really good. His Unbreakable alone, along with his passive, is just super, super strong. And then G2 round out first phase with Azir in the mid lane. So this draft so far is just kind of weird. There don't really seem to be many themes or, strategy going on. It's just kind of like, it's a game 5, so I feel like they're picking mostly comfort or just what's quote-unquote strong or meta currently. I don't think there's a whole lot of identifying themes going on here or actually picking cohesive comps, even though G2 it kind of scales well. I would definitely give them the draft advantage through the first phase just because Vi was picked in general. And then they go ahead and R4 Rel, which is pretty bad in my opinion. I think that Rel is just a bad champion. She's too hit or miss with her engage. If she hits it, sometimes it looks good, but most of the time she just misses it and ends up dying because she can't get out. I think this champion's really overrated, and if you pick any support engage tank in the bot lane, it really has to be Leona. Leona's solid, and in my opinion, she's really the only one worth picking right now. And then Mad Lions go ahead and round out with Ahri in the mid lane into Azir. I think that's actually a pretty losing matchup, and you're going to get outscaled by the Azir, so I don't like the Ahri there at all. And you're also putting Zeri into the bot lane against Draven, which is a really bad matchup for her. But here's where the really spicy stuff comes in with the Nidalee top lane pick, and I believe it's answered by an Aurelia on G2's side. Nidalee top lane is bad. It looks good in the lane, and yeah, it can bully a lot of melee matchups with grass procs and with quick combos and auto attacks. But come teamfight stage, it stays true to Nidalee as a champion in the fact that she doesn't do anything. No matter what you build, the champ, its kit, it's just useless. It comes down to missing spears, and pretty much all you have to offer is a heal for someone. And then with the Irelia answer, I really like that from G2. It's solid in the lane phase, it'll outscale the Nidalee, it'll automatically be more useful than the Nidalee champion in general. So in terms of the draft, I'd say G2 is actually pretty far ahead. Obviously, we know that Mad Lions ended up winning this game. I'm not going to go through the entire game and explain how that's possible, really. But in general, I liked G2's draft more, but the player execution obviously is really where the game comes down to, or what the game comes down to rather. And even though G2 entered the game with an advantageous comp, they weren't able to execute on that, and the Nidalee actually, true to my word, didn't really do much. In my opinion, it was mostly the Ahri and the Zeri carrying this game. Along with Elioya, he actually did make the Vi look pretty solid in the games that he played it, so I'll give him that. He made a useless champion look really good. So, I mean, Elioya is a beast, he has been for years. So what I'm going to do now is quickly swap over to tell you guys, or show you guys rather, what I would have done in Mad Lions shoes this game. Alright guys, so here we are in the draft here. I filled out Red Side's comp, which was G2's comp, with their first 4 champions, but I'm going to leave their R5 blank because they purely picked Irelia for the counter into the Nidalee matchup. which I will not be picking. So again, as per usual with this kind of video, I'm aware that the red side would not be picking the same champions that G2 did, considering what I would be picking. It's just for draft strategy purposes and showing you guys what I would have done in Mad Lion's shoes. So on blue side, we've been over this a million times as well. Corki should always be the first pick. I don't believe he was banned in this game. I don't think he was. Why is he going there? No, move down there. Okay. Corki should always be first picked on blue side every single time. Really, no matter what. If you wanted to ban Lucian on blue side to avoid that matchup, you can. But honestly, in my opinion, that whole Lucian counters Corki thing doesn't really work. I think it's a pretty fake counter pick, and Corki really does fine in the lane, assuming you space well enough, and obviously you're going to scale like a complete beast. So Corki every single time should be B1 first pick. In response to Zyra Draven. So like I said in previous videos, basic draft strategy is just counter what enemy just picked and pick the next OP. In this circumstance, since they didn't answer mid on first phase or first rotation, we get to the double counter pick here. So in terms of Zyra counter pick, I'm not going to actually pick anything that directly counters her in the matchup. I'm just going to try to match her pace and her farming. At the same time, I want to match something with Corki that has good range, good scaling, and good team fight, because that's what we're going for. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and take Brand. I think he's just a really, really strong jungler right now and does similar things as Zyra. I just think he's a little bit better than Zyra. And then in terms of Draven, we don't exactly know where the Draven's going on red side. He could definitely be flex mid to go into Corki, which would definitely be a good matchup for the Draven. So I don't really want to commit fully to trying to counter Draven in the bot lane, because he can just be flexed away, and then they can end up countering my bot lane anyways. So I'm just going to pick something more safe in the bot lane and go ahead and take the Ezreal. I'm not really trying to do anything special here by countering the Draven. I just want to have a fine matchup, and if they do end up flexing the Draven to mid lane, I can also just send the Ezreal mid and swap the Ezreal and the Corki as well. So this pick actually creates a lot of flexibility for me, depending on what red side does with their Draven pick. I can swap things around to try to give myself advantageous matchups in that sense. And then obviously red side finishes first phase with the Azir pick. So Azir into Corki actually does pretty well for the Azir, and obviously he scales like a beast. So we have pretty even scaling in the mid lane, and then Draven versus Ezreal is, it's fine for the Ezreal. The Draven's going to win in the first couple levels, but once Ezreal gets his sheen, he should be completely fine in that matchup. And then we have really pretty even junglers at the same time. So through the first phase, you can see that this draft is much more even in terms of scaling and range and just general themes, instead of picking what Mad did with the Vi. I forgot what else they picked, but in Ari and things like this, we're much more even with red side in terms of scaling and themes, and we're not trying to run face first into an Azir and Draven, which is definitely not a good thing. So through the first phase, it's much more even. But I think where red side really blunders here is the Rel pick, and this is really easily taken advantage of. I can pretty much pick any enchanter I want to here, any ranged enchanter with strong disengage, and just to show you guys a direct counter, I'm just going to take the Janna into the Rel. People are deluded into thinking Alistar counters Rel, and while he can cancel her combo, I think that that's kind of a fake counter pick, because Alistar himself is a really useless champion. His combo is literally all he has to offer as a champion, and so what you see most Alistars doing is combo a person, maybe two people, and then they sit around for 6 to 8 seconds waiting for their combo to be back up, and they have no more juice after their initial combo. And so occasionally you'll see an Alistar get a solid flank pulverize off, but that's really few and far between. And so in that sense, I'd rather just take a really hard counter pick. Janna does so well into Rel, it's not even funny. And Ezreal Janna also is just a strong lane with strong range and good scaling. We're continuing along the same themes as the rest of our team comp. And to round out, as a blind pick top lane, what do we still need left in our comp? It's going to be frontline, it's going to be engage, it's just going to be something to soak the damage, to let my team, to let my backline do damage essentially. And we want to stay on the same theme as the rest of our team with scaling and range. So we're just going to go ahead and pick the Ornn. This champion is obviously super broken and does perfectly fine as a blind pick in the top lane. People are probably just going to end up picking like Renekton or Cassante into it anyways, giving it a completely free game to scale and do whatever he wants. So as you can see, blue side here has super good scaling compared to what Mad Lions picked with the Vi and the Ahri and the Nidalee. This is a much more well-rounded on-team comp that's going to have really clear goals in the game, and we're saying, just get Corki and Ezreal and Brand to 2 items, get Ornn to level 14 so we can hand out items, and as soon as those 3 things happen, we're going to start winning the game. And it doesn't really matter what the enemy team has to offer. It doesn't really matter what they pick to counter on R5. If it were me, I would just pick Fiora and say, yeah, Fiora go side lane permanently and just face the Ornn 1v1. You'll outscale and you'll be able to take turrets in the side lane with Hullbreaker. If it's an actual pro team, they're probably just going to end up picking something again like the Renekton, like the Cassante, like the Gnar, something that doesn't actually counter Ornn, because pro teams rarely take advantage of actual counter picks. But in general, this is just what I would have picked if I were in Mad Lion's shoes in terms of a draft for a game 5 on blue side, considering what the red side picked. Thanks for watching. See you next time.